The Olympics are considered the biggest sporting event in the world, with athletes from around 200 countries participating and over 5 million people attending. In addition, approximately 3 billion people follow the Olympics through television and streaming platforms. Because of this, an event of this magnitude should be something countries fight over to host, as the host country would undoubtedly attract tourists from all over the world and gain significant recognition. However, the reality is quite different. Most countries now avoid hosting the Olympics, and no one wants to host them. So, what's the reason? Welcome, I'm Ahmed Mahmoud. But before we start, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get our videos as soon as they're released. If we look at the statistics of the countries that have hosted the Olympics in the last 20 years, we'll find something strange. In 2004, 12 countries submitted bids to host, and the committee finally chose Athens, Greece. In 2008, 10 countries submitted bids, and Beijing, China, won. Since then, interest in hosting the Olympics has gradually declined. In 2012, only 9 countries submitted bids, and it kept decreasing until there were only 5 countries bidding for the 2024 Olympics. When it came time to vote, it dropped to just 2. This is why the committee did something unprecedented. They decided to grant the 2024 Olympics to Paris and the 2028 Olympics to Los Angeles, fearing that no one would bid to host the 2028 Olympics. This issue, despite its oddity, has old roots. Countries' fears of hosting the Olympics started in the 1960s, specifically at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, which was one of the most politically charged Olympics. Just 10 days before the Olympics began, many students protested against the Mexican government's spending on the Olympics instead of social programs in the country. This led to clashes with the army, resulting in 200 deaths and over 1,000 injuries. During the medal ceremony for the men's 200 meters race, American athletes Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who won gold and bronze, respectively, raised their fists in a protest gesture against America's treatment of black citizens. The International Olympic Committee and the U.S. Committee saw this act as against the principles of the Games and expelled both athletes from the Olympic Village. After these events, the International Olympic Committee was in a major dilemma, as no city submitted bids to host the Olympics, until one city agreed to host under one condition. They wouldn't spend much and would use existing facilities, not building anything new specifically for the Olympics. University stadiums would be used for the Games, and student housing would accommodate the athletes. The city that made this offer was Los Angeles, and the committee seized the opportunity, agreeing to the offer as they had no other options. The 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles were considered one of the most successful seasons, especially financially, encouraging countries to submit bids to host the Olympics again after this season. As competition and demand to host the Olympics increased, the committee regained control. But instead of adhering to the successful Los Angeles model, they started imposing more and more conditions each year. New venues and stadiums, more luxurious housing for athletes, new sports requiring new specialized facilities, all to be paid from the hosting country's budget. With increasing competition, countries felt more pressure to make their bids more attractive, and the only way to win was to build more. When Sydney was chosen, it built 15 new stadiums and housing for 100,000 people. Athens built 22 new facilities, and Beijing built 12 new venues. This chart shows how the cost of the Games has skyrocketed in the last 30 years. For example, the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics cost the state $1 billion, while current costs range from $10 billion to $25 billion. And these figures include only the sporting costs of the Games. This doesn't include the new public transport required or the development projects that most cities spend millions on. If we calculate more accurately to see the expenses, we find that Beijing spent $45 billion on the 2008 Olympics. Russia spent over $50 billion on the 2014 Olympics. and Tokyo 2020 spent $35 billion. All of them spent far more than their initial planned budgets, and the bigger problem is that the International Olympic Committee itself starts giving directives to the chosen country, like needing 30 new buildings for a specific sport or new transportation between certain venues, and the host city must comply even if it's at the expense of the national budget. Later, they are shocked by the numbers exceeding all limits, as happened with the London 2012 Games, which were supposed to cost $2.4 billion but ended up costing the government $13.5 billion. After all this, two questions arise. First, don't these countries earn millions of dollars from advertisements, broadcasting rights, ticket sales, and tourists coming from all over? The answer is yes. There are revenues and deals, but if we sum all these, they amount to less than what the country spends on the Olympics. The 2016 Rio Olympics cost Brazil at least $13 billion, and the total revenue from the Olympics was only $9 billion, part of which went to the International Olympic Committee, meaning the expenses exceeded the revenues. The second question is, won't the host country gain significant long-term tourism benefits? This question has been thoroughly addressed by economists from top universities worldwide who conducted studies and research on past Olympics, all concluding that the tourism return for the host country is almost negligible, even if the country is primarily a tourist destination. In fact, tourism decreased during some recent Olympics, such as London 2012, where tourism dropped by 5%, and Beijing 2008, where tourism fell by over 20%. In the long run, studies suggest that if one of your relatives traveled to watch the 2012 London Olympics, upon returning, their stories would mostly revolve around the Olympic events themselves, such as a specific race they saw or a particular athlete, because that was the main reason for their travel. The emotions they convey would encourage others to watch the Olympics regardless of the host location, not necessarily to return to London. In 2004, a study on 4 cities, Seoul, Sydney, Barcelona, and Atlanta, that had previously hosted the Olympics, showed a significant drop in tourism after the Games ended. Another study in 1996 confirmed that the long-term tourism impact on all host countries ranged from negligible to very small. Economically, a 2024 study concluded that the economic impact of hosting the Olympics is less positive than expected, and most cities hosting the Olympics end up in massive debt. Finally, a crucial question. Don't these host countries benefit significantly from infrastructure development, which is a clear gain? In reality, while it appears to be development, the actual situation is different. For example, Russia spent $8.7 billion on a railway and highway project for Sochi, the city that hosted the 2014 Olympics. Economists consider this one of the most unsuccessful projects the country has undertaken. In Rio de Janeiro, $4 billion was spent on a metro line connecting the beach complexes to the Olympic Center. After the Olympics ended, the line served only a negligible number of residents, despite the city's need for a metro line to serve crowded neighborhoods. However, due to the line built for the Olympics, the needed line for residents wasn't constructed. Because of these issues, most countries now think twice before bidding to host the Olympics, investing their money, efforts, and time into something that brings no real benefits to the country. Moreover, some countries might host the Olympics and produce a poor-quality opening ceremony, potentially tarnishing the country's image, as happened with the current 2024 Olympics in France, which faced significant criticism for its opening ceremony. That's it. We're done. Who made it this far? Those of you who did, you're the best. Give us a like before you leave so we can see how many of you made it to the end. And don't forget, if you have episode suggestions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.